We're recording. Start. That's
Hello.
the part where you say, yay.
Yay! We're recording.
Hi, Kitty.
Hi. Hi, Dorkus. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very tired. I hope I can. I'm sure I'll wake up by the time we are through the epigraph.
You know what's really good for waking up?
Coffee.
Cocaine.
Well, I would not know. I'm very
It's okay.
Yeah, neither would you.
Neither would I. Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host,
ThatDarnKitteh.
Kitty and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter 17.
Chapter 17.
Oh, almost left out the teen. Like, okay, we're going back in time now.
This was such a nice episode.
Wait, a chapter-sode, you mean?
Chapter, because I'm referring to the book and not the episode we are recording. Start. I'm sorry.
I did this. I started this. Okay. Let's go.
But before...
Yes, before we go, say stuff about it. What did you think of this chapter?
So we've had so much like rising action and life-threatening stakes and cliffhangers and so on for
injuries.
What feels like, and injuries for what feels like for so long, in part because we're reading slowly, but also because I think of the plot progression of the book. It was so nice to finally have some time to just breathe, you know?
Yes. Breathe, think, talk. I mean, there's always great dialogue and things, but yeah, we got a bit of the thinking going on and a bit of the recovery, which is really needed. I think, although you'll see how Vin is not so, she doesn't like the whole thing of standing still, but it was needed, I think. What my major takeaway over here was just lots of revelations about questions we've had. I have a note here that says called it, but I know that it's not me called it. I'm writing called it for Dorkus. So that's I know that. I remember that.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Let's see, yeah.
And it was so exciting.
I was excited, yeah. Oh, and then there's just lots of stuff that actually really it latches onto the previous discussions that we had as well, which is like, you know, like the one time where we're like, oh, there needs to be this conversation in the next chapter, or not. We didn't say in the next chapter. We just said soon. I hope they have this conversation, and then they did. So there was one of those that happened, and I'll try and point it out if I remember. It's in the middle of the chapter. But yeah, as usual, love it. Vin sites, Vin work, Calcia things. Actually, there's two things that there's payoffs, setups and payoffs. Yes. Okay. Yeah, very exciting. Oh,
we get a red dress this time.
Yes, which I like red. I mean, there's no purple going on here, but red's a close second as my favorite color. So yeah, very exciting stuff. Shall we get into it?
Let's go. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd remained there in that lazy village of my birth. I'd have become a smith like my father. Perhaps I'd have a family of my own, sons of my own. Perhaps someone else would have come to carry this terrible burden. Someone who could bear it far better than I. Someone who deserved to be a hero. Jinx.
We had this, it's a very intellectual thought that we had there, okay? Very, very insightful commentary.
So the phrase "someone who deserved to be a hero."
Yes, I underlined that. Sorry.
Excellent. He doesn't think he deserves to be a hero, but he still considers himself to be one.
Yes.
Is
This
interesting.
this is part of his conflict, the whole that we saw from earlier on. It's like, am I not? But yeah, he is, but there you can see these doubts. He has these doubts. And it's weird. Perhaps, like he says, perhaps someone else would have to come to carry this terrible burden. It's like, okay, so I guess, yeah, it makes sense, because being a hero is always going to be a terrible burden, actually. I suppose being the hero, you think somebody who was the real hero wouldn't feel like it's this much of a burden. But actually, just think about it, the hero's journey, all of that sort of thing. If it's not difficult, you're not a hero. So,
Frodo understands the burden of the ring.
So, what else did you take from this? That
I
he is
just
not the
want
hero, or it's just the conflict?
no, I want to know where in the timeline this is, because if he's
Right.
referring to the burden of being the hero, of the world is counting on him to save it, that is a different kind of burden than my theory, which was that he is only postponing the inevitable and not actually stopping the deepness, which would be its own kind of burden if he's like constantly living with having to put it off, right?
Yeah.
Those are two different kinds of burdens.
Yeah, that makes sense. They can both fit in. You could fit them in with by moving the epigraphs around, and you don't know when they happened. We don't necessarily know whether it's all in chronological order. It doesn't seem like it. Like they are all over the place. I think we can't make a determination of them being. It would be great when we actually take them all together at the end and see. Maybe we'll be able to figure it out.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think they're all chronological? I don't think so.
At this point, I'm skeptical.
Because of just, he's all over the place mentally. Like in certain places, you can see it feels like he's very much one way, which makes you think certain amount of time has passed or has not passed, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm it's amazing that I'm still confused. We now have more information. We know that this is from this journal.
Well,
But like,
here's sort of here's a big question though. Are the epigraphs taken on their own, intended to be some sort of chronological story that helps inform us at the proper times of information that we need to help us puzzle together what happens? Or are the epigraphs snippets that Brandon Sanderson picked out of order because for some reason or another they are thematically relevant to what is happening in the chapter with Kelsier and the others?
You know what this means, Dorkus?
What?
You have to diagram this. This has to be a diagram. This is a thing. No, I'm serious. You know what? 17 diagrams is not that bad. I need to go back and diagram the chapters. Like, yeah.
I mean, I support it, and I'd be more than happy to do it with you if we have the time. I will tell the audience now, the reason I stopped with the diagrams is because my life has become
chaotic.
Very chaotic for reasons I'm not going to wholly get into, but it just became a bit too much for me. But yeah, if we can find time.
Use them. Yeah, we didn't use them so as much. We focused more on the reading. But the fact is, we have a really good starting point just from the way that Dorkus conceptualized it in the beginning. So I'm more and more driven towards going back and doing it. Maybe we do that. Yeah, maybe we do that on Tuesdays or on my channel, or I don't know. We'll see. Point is,
I'm so down.
When it comes to the epigraph thing, we need a map, okay? We need some. I want to identify those. I really do think it should be a thematic. These things have a function in each chapter. And of course, we're going through this. It is one chapter at a time. We discuss the whole chapter, but thinking about the whole book together would just be cool. But anyway, that's it. That's epigraph. And also, just one more thing about the epigraphs. They not only do they just give you I would say that they probably give you thematic questions to ask as you go through. It also just it strings you along, gives you just enough information to ask a new question of the Lord Ruler, about the Lord Ruler.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this continues at all, what in the second book. And it seems like we're going to be doing the second book.
Yes, or at least that was the impression I was under, is that we'd be doing all three, which I'm excited for.
Me too. So stick around, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Shall
else?
we?
I spoke a lot there. I took a whole chunk.
Look, I enjoy listening to you speak, so I have to subject everyone else to it from time to time.
Yes.
Let's go.
I appreciate that. Statement of appreciation.
Statement of appreciation.
Yes. Okay. Let's go.
And everyone's just thinking now, oh my God, start the chapter already.
Please, God.
Sorry, guys. Before coming to Mansion Renault, Vin had never seen a cultivated garden. On burglaries or scouting missions, she had occasionally seen ornamental plants, but she'd never given them much heed. They, like many noble interests, had seemed frivolous to her. She hadn't realized how beautiful the plants could be when arranged carefully. Mansion Renault's garden balcony was a thin oval structure that overlooked the grounds below. The gardens weren't large, they required too much water and attention to form more than a thin perimeter around the back of the building. Still, they were marvelous. Instead of mundane browns and whites, the cultivated plants were of deeper, more vibrant colors, shades of red, orange, and yellow, with colors concentrated in their leaves. The groundskeepers had planted them to make intricate, beautiful patterns. Closer to the balcony, exotic trees with colorful yellow leaves gave shade and protected from ashfalls. It was a very mild winter, and most of the trees still held their leaves. The air felt cool, and the rustling of branches in the wind was soothing. Almost soothing enough, in fact, to make Vin forget how annoyed she was. "Would you like more tea, child?" Lord Renault asked. He didn't wait for an answer. He simply waved for a servant to rush forward and refill her cup. Vin sat on a plush cushion, her wicker chair designed for comfort. During the last 4 weeks, her every whim and desire had been met. Servants cleaned up after her, primped her, fed her, and helped bathe her. Renault saw that anything she asked for was given her, and she certainly wasn't expected to do anything strenuous, dangerous, or even slightly inconvenient. In other words, her life was maddeningly boring. Before her time at Mansion Renault had been monopolized by Sazed's lessons and Kelsier's training. She'd slept during the days, having minimal contact with the mansion staff. Now, however, allomancy, at least the nighttime jumping kind, was forbidden her. Her wound was only partially healed, and too much motion reopened it. Sazed still gave her occasional lessons, but his time was dominated by translating the book. He spent long hours in the library poring over its pages with an uncharacteristically excited air. Yeah, I'd be excited too.
Yeah, we would, both of us be like, yes, we wouldn't sleep.
Yep.
Gosh, Vin. Nerd harder. Sheesh. He's found a new bit of lore. To a keeper, that's probably as intoxicating as street spice. I circled that word.
Me too. I mean, not literally, but I noted it.
Yes, and yes. What street spice is? Is that cocaine? What would you think street spice is? What?
Skooma? Is that what it's called?
Yes, it's called skooma. Yeah, skooma. Yeah, I like that. Skyrim stuffs.
Yeah.
Wait, no, there's skooma. Well, I say Skyrim, but it's Morrowind as well. Just the whole Elder Scrolls, hey.
Yeah.
It's street spice. Woo! I love that. I like that idea. It's better than cocaine. We're calling it skooma going forward.
Excellent.
I just didn't know that we had that. I mean, it makes sense. It's not a huge surprise, but it's like, oh, look, extra world building, something called street spice.
You could call it a spice of its own in the world. A nice little
seasoning,
bit of flavor.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like it. It's amazing how this one little thing livens up the world a lot for me.
Yes.
She sipped at her tea with repressed petulance, eyeing the nearby servants. They seemed like scavenger birds, roosting and waiting for any opportunity to make Vin as comfortable and as frustrated as possible. I love that dichotomy, or that juxtaposition.
Yeah. How dare they make her comfortable? So annoying. Should they say
So-
annoy her?
So predatory.
Predatory assistance.
Renault wasn't much help either. His idea of taking lunch with Vin was to sit and attend to his own duties, making notes on ledgers or dictating letters while eating. Her attendance seemed important to him, but he rarely paid much attention to her other than to ask how her day had been. Yet she forced herself to act the part of a prim noblewoman. Lord Renault had hired some new servants that didn't know about the job, not house staff, but gardeners and workmen. Kelsier and Renault had worried that the other houses would grow suspicious if they couldn't get at least a few servant spies onto the Renault grounds. I appreciated that. That's smart.
Yeah, that's really
controlled
smart, yeah.
spying. Controlled
Yes, I
counter
agree.
spying.
Yeah, exactly. You have to consider all of these. It would be you're attracting notice by being too secretive, if you know, like too obviously secretive.
Yes.
Don't
Now,
be
of course-
suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Yeah.
What's that?
I got it from the murder podcast that I watched. They got it from TikTok. I don't know. The internet is a thing. It's a
Excellent.
monster.
Oh, did you ever watch Only Murders in the Building?
No, I haven't watched it yet. But you've recommended. This will be the second time you recommend. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, well, I enjoyed it. Not perfect by any means, but very enjoyable. Great cast of people. Kelsier didn't see it as a danger to the job, but it did mean that Vin had to maintain her persona whenever possible.
I can't believe that people live like this.
Vin thought as some servants began clearing away the meal.
How can noble women fill their days with so much nothing? No wonder everyone's eager to attend those balls.
Is your respite pleasant, dear? Renault asked, poring over another ledger.
Yes, uncle. Quite.
You should be up to a shopping trip soon. Perhaps you would like to visit Kenton Street. Get some new earrings to replace that pedestrian stud you wear. Right, I had things to say about that. Renault is kind of tactless. No, I wouldn't expect him to know about the earring thing, like having sentimental value for her, but he has said things that just like have absolutely no empathy throughout our experiences with him, which is interesting.
Yeah, like I know he wouldn't know the sentimental value, but you would, I don't know, if you had emotional intelligence, you would be like, okay, there's clearly something about this thing. There's a reason that she's put this on. She's got all these kinds of jewels. She's got access to a whole bunch of things. Like, it's something I think Kelsier would understand. Like, even though he's been told about it, but like, it's something Kelsier would have picked up on and try and put together and gone, oh, why would she be wearing this earring? It must be important in some way. It doesn't have to be that you would go directly to sentimental. It would be like, she has a reason for this. Let me maybe find out, or whatever, or approach this thing of, hey, you're only wearing one stud. Let maybe balance it out, whatever. Something like that. I know it's not a huge deal, but it does tell us about Lord Renault, air quotes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he seems to me to be a very neurotic individual, or a bit of a control freak.
Yes.
And a bit of a low EQ. And it almost has me wondering if he just isn't human. Like, we still don't know, how Imposter Renault came to be Imposter Renault.
Mm-hmm.
But there is certainly something very alien about him, it seems to me.
Just at least sociopathic. It's weird.
Yeah, just there is definitely something a little off.
Yeah.
Anyway, where were we?
Vin reached a hand to her ear.
Vin reached a hand to her left ear where her mother's earring still sat.
No, I'll keep this.
Renault frowned but said no more, for a servant approached and drew his attention. My lord, a carriage just arrived from Luthadel.
The servant voices. Sorry.
Vin perked up. That was the servant's way of saying that a member of the crew had arrived. Ah, very good. Show them up, Tonson. Yes, my lord. A few minutes later, Kelsier, Breeze, Yedden, and Dachshund walked out onto the balcony. Renault discreetly waved to the servants, who closed the glass balcony doors and left the crew in privacy. Several men took up a position inside, watching to make certain that the wrong people didn't have an opportunity to eavesdrop. Are we interrupting your meal?
No.
Vin said quickly, cutting off Lord Renault's reply.
Sit, please.
Kelsier strolled over to the balcony's ledge, looking out over the garden and grounds. Nice view you have here. Kelsier, is that wise? Some of the gardeners are men for whom I cannot vouch. Kelsier chuckled. If they can recognize me from this distance, they deserve more than the great houses are paying them. But he did leave the balcony edge, walking over to the table and spinning a chair, then sitting down on it the wrong way. Over the last few weeks, he had mostly returned to his old familiar self, yet there were still changes. He held meetings more often, discussed more of his plans with the crew. He also still seemed different, more thoughtful.
Sazed was right. Our attack on the palace might have been near deadly for me, but it has changed Kelsier for the better.
We thought we'd have our meeting here this week, since you two rarely get to participate. And that was most thoughtful of you, Master Dachshund. But your concern is unnecessary. We are doing just fine.
No, we aren't. Some of us need information. What's happening with the crew? How is the recruitment going?
Renault eyed her with dissatisfaction. Vin, however, ignored him.
He's not really a lord. He's just another crew member. My opinion counts as much as his. Now that the servants are gone, I can speak how I want.
She thought to herself. Kelsier chuckled. Well, captivity's made her a bit more outspoken, if nothing else.
I don't have anything to do. It's driving me insane.
Breeze set his cup of wine on the table. Some would find your state enviable, Vin.
Then they must already be insane.
Oh, they're mostly noblemen. So yes, they're quite mad.
The job? What's happening?
Recruitment is still too slow, but we're improving. We may have to sacrifice further security for numbers, Kelsier, Yedden said.
That's a change too,
she thought, impressed as she noted Yedden's civility. He had taken to wearing nicer clothing, not a full gentleman's suit like Dachshund or Breeze, but at least a well-cut jacket and trousers, with a buttoned shirt beneath, all kept clean of soot. And that can't be helped, Yedden. Fortunately, Ham's doing well with the troops. I had a message from him a few days ago. He's impressed with their progress. Breeze snorted. Be warned, Hammond does tend to be a bit optimistic about these kinds of things. If the army were made up of one-legged mutes, he would praise their balance and their listening skills. I should like to see the army, Yedden said eagerly. Soon. We should be able to get Marsh into the ministry within the month, Dachshund said, nodding to Sazed as the terracemen passed their sentries and entered the balcony. Hopefully Marsh will be able to give some insight as to how to deal with the Steel Inquisitors. Vin shivered. They are a concern, Breeze agreed. Considering what a couple of them did to you two, I don't envy capturing the palace with them in there. They are as dangerous as Mistborn.
More.
Can the army really fight them? Yedden asked uncomfortably. I mean, they're supposed to be immortal, aren't they? And that was something you had thought of, Kitteh.
What, their immortal? What, the fact that they're immortal? What did I? Me? Was it me?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at one point you wondered if the Inquisitors were immortal as well.
Well, yeah, they must be immortal because remember we were saying that there's 20 of them and there's always been 20 of them. So it's like they are in some way. I think that they're immortal like vampires, where they can go on living, but you can kill them somehow. If they manage, they can continue living forever. Before we get into the next bit, I do want to go back to how Vin framed the night at the palace. Our attack on the palace might have been near deadly for me, but it has changed Kelsier for the better.
Yes.
she frames it as our attack on the palace was near deadly for me. Like when I first read that, she didn't seem to realize that the reason that it changed Calcia as well. She was part of that reason. So you can see that she doesn't really understand that, or doesn't really want to notice that. She goes, our attack on the palace might have been near deadly for me because she's completely separating herself from what's happened to him, but it has changed Calcia for the better. In the fact that it was nearly deadly for her is the reason it changed Calcia, is part of the reason.
Yes.
But she doesn't know that, or she doesn't have the confidence to actually understand that.
At least not yet.
Yeah, at least not yet. I don't know how she would get there, but yeah, if she yeah, okay, you have hope for her. That's good.
Yeah.
I think she has the emotional intelligence to put two and two together, and I think it's more like it's subconscious. She knows, but she hasn't thought about it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly. And you can see she shivers as well when they mention the Inquisitors. It's
These
properly
things scared
traumatic.
her.
Yeah. And she still does say that they are more as well. Her little quietly, she's just like, they're as dangerous as Mistborn. She's like, no, they're more dangerous than Mistborn, which I think is quite true considering how they got the ass is handed to them. It was not an equal fight when it was one on one. Calcia with Calcia 1-on-1, it was not. He just got grabbed. They're formidable and it is quite scary. I don't know how. And yes, would the army be something that could take them on? Like you just have to overwhelm them. You have to just throw bodies at them. So yeah, I do wonder how that fight's going to go down.
I wonder how much atium each of the Inquisitors has at their disposal too.
Yeah, and maybe they burn it at a better rate, like a slower rate, so they can. Yeah. Oh, why did I don't want to think about that. They're scaring me. But yeah, and several of them, like 20. Like if you brought all of them together into one area, you do need an army, and it would then wouldn't if you kind of would still be on the back foot. Yeah, we definitely need something about them. They need a weakness. We need to know how to defeat them. We can't just continue like we did before.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think that there will be a weakness or something that they exploit? Or is it just like, okay, well, we just figure out the best way to attack these juggernauts?
I kind of think that it's just going to have to be another distraction. I think someone's going to just have to get their attention, drag them out of the room, and then have the other folks run in and grab whatever's in the vault, in theory.
Yeah.
And then, like, I wonder if, like, they have some sort of just, like, off button.
Yeah, or they have fuel that they need, and if you take that away, somehow they're less powerful or something. Yeah.
Or maybe, like, there's a metal that is keeping them alive perpetually, similar to the Lord Ruler's immortality, but not quite. And that's why they can live with the eye metal going through their skulls. And then once you deactivate that, the metal might kill them.
Yeah, that would be a cool way for them to die. Like suddenly their eye things are affecting them. And they're like, oh, that would be so cool.
Okay. It wasn't... remember the Hellboy movie?
No, not really. But I know what you're thinking about. I know what Hellboy is.
I think the villain in that, it's been like 10 plus years since I watched it. Rasputin just like doesn't have eyes. I'll have to rewatch it, but that came to mind.
That came to mind.
Or maybe it wasn't Rasputin, but I'm pretty sure someone in there had like lack of eyes and an almost robotic presence.
Scary, ominous. You're supposed to be not threatening because you have no eyesight, but you do have eyesight and you're immortal. Scary, sinister. It's giving dark-sided. You guys, you have to listen to the Morbid podcast, so you'll get my references.
Marshall find the answer. Yedden nodded slowly, accepting Kelsier's words.
Yes, changed indeed.
Vin thought. It appeared that not even Yedden could resist Kelsier's charisma for an extended period of time. In the meantime, I'm hoping to hear what Sazad has learned about the Lord Ruler.
Same. I mean, he doesn't say that, but same. Actually, I don't think Vin is curious enough. Come on, Vin. She's irritated with Sazed like going over the book, but it's like, dude, that's very important for him to do. But she's just so frustrated.
Yeah, there's gonna be something important in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sazed sat laying his tome on the tabletop. I will tell you what I can, though this is not the book that I first assumed it to be. I thought that Mistress Fiend had recovered some ancient religious text, but it is of a far more mundane nature.
We went through exactly the same thing as Sazed. You went through it quicker. You were like, no, it's a journal. That's the journal. It makes sense. But because it was like, I feel better that Sazed also had the same thought as me. He was like, oh, it's a religious text because of just the way it looks. It's like this big tome, and it's like, the scripture. But actually, it is. It's the journal. Literally, you wrote the journal in your notes. Also, so I wrote win here because that's win for you. Like we knew it was the journal before, but just the fact is they literally went through the same reasoning as I did, where I was like, huh? And he also was like, wait a second. Yes, he also has the same notes of why, because you can see why it because I did discuss that's the setups and payoffs, okay, for me, because I did discuss it doesn't seem like we did discuss it doesn't seem like a religious text because there's too much fallibility and vulnerability that's expressed for it to even for this journal itself, even if it's a journal, which it is, but for this journal to be something that is for worship, it's actually for the Lord Ruler himself. It's not for worship, because we will see the discussion going forward. You'll see what I mean.
Mundane? How? It is a journal, Master Doxon. A record that appears to have been penned by the Lord Ruler, or rather, the man who became the Lord Ruler. Even ministry teachings agree that before the Ascension he was a mortal man. This book tells of his life just prior to his final battle at the Well of Ascension 1,000 years ago. Mostly it is a record of his travels, a narration of the people he met, the places he visited, and the trials he faced during his quest. So, Well of Ascension. I know I had mentioned it briefly as the name of one of the other books, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I underlined it for that reason.
Yeah. Is this the first time in book that we're hearing it?
I think it might be the second. Or no. I think this might be the first time we have heard it called the Well of Ascension. We've heard about the Ascension, but
Yes.
I don't think that we've had the Well of Ascension the whole full term. That's why I underlined it as well, because it was like, wait a second, I think this is the first time we're really talking about it. So it might have been in passing or whatever, but okay, this is in passing, but this seems more significant. I don't know. So maybe I think it is.
Cool. Just noteworthy thing.
Yeah, and that makes us think, because if there's another book that is the Well of Ascension, do we have to go back to the Well of Ascension? We have to go back there because it's not over.
I mean, there is the wonder if this well is in the vault that they're trying to get into.
Yeah.
But again, I keep thinking of, well, weren't they traveling north? Wasn't it in the north? Or were they just going north to talk to the terracemen? But I don't think that's the case, because they needed to hire terracemen to continue north. So, and why wouldn't the Lord Ruler have his throne set near the well?
Yeah. And it's a well, okay, so just thinking about the words here, sorry, just thinking further, as you were talking there, I was like, wait a second, well, okay, so it's a well, so it would be of ascension. So he had an ascension, which turned him into this mortal being. But when we think of wells, we think of drawing from wells. So I read this theory of him like always having to go back to something and to consume something or to keep something at bay, it makes sense to me that there is a well involved, this well of ascension. But also there is that geographical confusion for me, because it seemed like he was going to the deepness, because he spoke about, we're closer to I'm closer to my target or whatever destination. I feel it.
Right.
And it seemed like that was by Terrace. That wasn't where Luthadel is. So maybe, but it's vague enough for it to turn around. I don't know.
Curious.
Curious.
I'm gonna open the map. Yeah.
Are you opening the map?
I am. I see the
dominates.
southern. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I see the southern sea is predictably on the southern side of the map. Luthadel is more or less close to the center of this whole territory. Terrace dominance is way, way, way up north. I don't know, but your association with well and returning to the well is in line with the Lord Ruler returning to this vault every 3 days.
Is it the Fountain of Youth? Of something like that? Is it based on that? Because he's immortal? As of yet, unknown.
Interesting. But how does it help us? I am not certain, Master Ladrian. However, understanding the real history behind the Ascension will be of use, I think. At the very least, it will give us some insight to the Lord Ruler's mind. The Ministry thinks it's important. Vin said she found it in some kind of shrine in the Central Palace complex. Which, of course, doesn't at all raise any question regarding its authenticity. I do not believe it to be a fabrication, Master Ladrian. It contains a remarkable level of detail, especially regarding unimportant issues like packmen and supplies. In addition, the Lord Ruler it depicts is quite conflicted. If the Ministry were going to devise a book for worship, they would present their god with more divinity, I think.
That is where I wrote called it.
Yes.
So that is my call. It was actually my call. I thought that because I remember usually when I write called it, it's Dorkus has called it. So this called it was I guess it was ours, both of us, because we had this exact conversation. That's what. So I brought it up before. I explained this earlier on in this little section. But yeah, called it. Yay!
Hey. I want to read it when you're done, Saws, Doxson said. And I, Breeze said.
I'm going to diagram it.
Yes! And we'll diagram it, ThatDarnKitteh said. Excellent idea, ThatDarnKitteh, Kelsier said. And now we're just getting into fanfic territory.
Butchered. Sorry.
Some of Clubs' apprentices occasionally work as scribes. We'll have to make them a copy for each of you. And then this is like hyper important in my opinion for my predictions. I don't think they're just going to stop at the crew. I think they're going to make hundreds, if not thousands of copies of this journal to distribute.
Yes, because it exposes him.
Yes.
Obviously what would happen is you just dismiss its authenticity, right? But that's how you would PR wise, you'd be like, oh well, no, it's not right, or oh well, that was before he was a mortal man. Try and spin it, like, oh well, he wasn't human, and now he's divine. But yeah, I think that is why we're talking about scribes and how it seems like production level, printing basically that they're alluding to there. You're right. So that is a future Dorkus called it, I'm telling you.
Except there's a potential slight problem with this prediction. In that I, Dorkus, have said on several past episodes or expressed thoughts that perhaps the Lord Ruler is not necessarily bad, so it could backfire. Then again, we are starting to see darker turns to the story from the epigraphs.
Yeah. So So it might be misguided for them to try and destroy him in that way.
I don't know, but it's exciting either way.
We want to know.
Handy lot, those. So where does that leave us? Doxin tilted his head toward Vin. With the nobility. Kelsier frowned.
I can go back to work. I'm mostly healed now.
Kelsier shot a look at Sazad, who shook his head in a slight motion. He checked on her wound periodically. Apparently, he didn't like what he saw.
Cal, I'm going insane. I grew up as a
She
thief.
said Cal.
Yeah, no, it's cute, isn't it? Cal.
Yep. Continue.
Cal, I'm going insane. I grew up as a thief, scrambling for food in space. I can't just sit around and let these servants pamper me. Besides, I have to prove that I can still be useful to this crew. That's a thought.
Yes, and I've only just realized you didn't do Southern Vin at the start of this.
Yeah, wait, while she was expected, I did see that. I was like, oh, they're gonna notice that. That's a continuity error.
Oh man.
Oh well.
I'm sure you're so sad about missing it.
I'm very cold, yes. I'm gonna practice it. Just speak to my husband in a southern accent.
Do it.
And yeah, I'll feel more confident about Vin going forward. I promise.
Excellent. I'm sure there'll be more balls for us to enjoy. Well, you're one of the reasons we came here today. There's a ball this weekend that...
I'll go.
Hear me out, Vin. You've been through a lot lately, and this infiltration could get dangerous.
Kelsier. Oh, she's saying it flatly. Kelsier. My whole life has been dangerous. I'm going.
Kelsier didn't look convinced. She has to do it, Cal. For one thing, the nobility is going to get suspicious if she doesn't start going to parties again. For another, we need to know what she sees. Having servant spies on the staff isn't the same as having a spy listening to local plots. You know that. All right, then. But you have to promise not to use physical allomancy until Sazed says otherwise.
Thank goodness. She has to promise that. I think that's a good idea. She cannot. If she moves in a certain way, she's opening up her wound. Sounds Wheel of Time to me. Sorry, in Wheel of Time, there is like an endless wound that never heals, and it keeps opening up. I hope that's not what we're going for here.
No, but I am, for all of my complaints about how quickly Kelsier healed, I'm glad that this one is actually sticking.
Yeah, it's very much. Yeah, he just had broken stuff. Okay, she had torn stuff and organs and cool.
Anything else to say about that last little section?
Just more of Vin's frustration coming out. She just wants to get out there, and yes, she has said to herself again, I need to prove that I can still be useful to this crew. She's very uncomfortable. Well, she has expressed in the previous chapters being uncomfortable about her position because she's liking it. She's scared of not being valuable anymore. And at the same time, she also just wants to be valuable to them because she cares about them. So that's just, she has this need to be useful, and you can see it's taking place. Yeah, she's like another person might be like, yeah, I need to rest, someone like me, I'd be like, oh God, I need to rest. I'm just so tired. She doesn't know. She's just like, no, let's go. I'll be fine. And she even she's still being foolhardy. She's like, yeah, I'm fine. And Sazed's like, no, you're not. Like it's still a risk, but I think it makes sense she has to be seen again, definitely. So this is not manufactured stakes here. Like you do need her to go to a ball now. Otherwise, it's like, oh, okay, there was an attack on the Lord Ruler's palace, and then this high society woman was out, and like obviously the nobility wouldn't make much of it because they don't know, but the inquisitors would go, oh, what happened with the nobility around this time? There was a female, which they know that there is a small Mistborn, small, not Kelsier Mistborn, and they want to know about her father and who she is. And then she goes then there is this evidence of this noblewoman who disappeared for a couple of weeks after this injury. I don't know. It seems very obvious to me, that connection.
Yes.
Like it wouldn't be obvious to the nobility, but to the ministry.
Well,
yes.
that also connects to what I had said several episodes ago about, should Kelsier really be doing heists in Felice? Like, wouldn't that draw unwanted attention to Felice?
Yeah.
So at first I thought that the Inquisitors were like detectives. I don't think that as much anymore now that I know that there's only about 20. Anyway, they're not perfect.
Yes, there are definitely weaknesses in their operations that can be exploited, and probably will be, and it's coming for them.
Yeah. Later that evening, Vin still couldn't believe how eager she was to go to the ball. She stood in her room looking over the different gown ensembles that Doxson had found for her. Since she had been forced to wear noblewoman's attire for a good month straight, she was beginning to find dresses a shade more comfortable than she once had.
Not that they aren't frivolous, of course. All of that lace, the layers of material, a simple shirt and trousers are so much more practical.
Yeah, practical Vin.
I feel like this is a little bit of cope. She's like, wait a second, no, I'm still practical, okay? I like the dresses, but I'm still a tomboy, okay? Just, I'm not allowed to like them, but also they're really nice. But also, no, they're frilly and annoying. And so she's dealing with that.
Yes.
I think it's a common thing. I don't know. As a tomboy, it's true. It's like, I do like dresses, but also I don't. It's very strange. It's a strange relationship we have with dressing up.
Interesting. Yet there was something special about the gowns, something in their beauty, like the gardens outside. When regarded as static items like a solitary plant, the dresses were only mildly impressive. However, when she considered attending the ball, the gowns took on a new meaning. They were beautiful, and they would make her beautiful. They were the face she would show to the court, and she wanted to choose the right one.
I wonder if Ellen Venture will be there.
Yeah.
I just thought when she mentioned that, I was like, oh, Dorkus is not going to be happy.
Yep. Nope. She's crushing hard. And she's being such a girl.
She is being such a girl. Girl Vin.
Didn't Sazed say that most of the younger aristocrats attended every ball? She lay a hand on one dress, black with the silver embroiderings. It would match her hair, but was it too dark? Most of the other women wore colorful dresses. Muted colors seemed reserved for men's suits. She had a yellow gown, but it seemed a little too perky, and the white one was too ornate. That left the red. The neckline was lower, not that she had a lot to show, but it was beautiful. A bit gossamer with the full sleeves that were made of translucent mesh in places. It enticed her, but it seemed so blatant. She picked it up, feeling the soft material in her fingers, imagining herself wearing it.
How did I get to this? This thing would be impossible to hide in. These frilly creations, these aren't me.
And yet, part of her longed to be back at the ball again. The daily life of a noblewoman frustrated her, but her memories of that one night were alluring. The beautiful couples dancing, the perfect atmosphere and music, the marvelous crystalline windows.
I don't even realize when I'm wearing perfume anymore.
She realized with a shock. She found it preferable to bathe in scented water each day, and the servants perfumed her clothing. It was all subtle, but it would be enough to give her away while sneaking. Okay, so this is also Vin. This is the Vin who doesn't grow up in a horrible, horrible, ashy world, yeah?
Yes, yeah. There is a different kind of Vin that she hasn't had the opportunity to be. That doesn't mean that it's wrong for her to be it. So yes, there's bad things about the nobility, of course, absolutely. But there are things about nobility that are undeniably enjoyable, and things that she's tempted by. And I like that it's not like, oh, she's and even Jeden is actually on his way to just being like, it's okay to have certain quality. It's okay to want beauty, but you need to be sure of what cost at what cost are you doing that. So she's feeling guilty as well. She's like, she has guilt, and then also like she's feeling uncomfortable. Like, whoa, wait a second, this isn't what I'm supposed to be. But yeah, I think even most Mistborn would be wearing perfume. I wonder. I want that to come to be to come full circle. I want her to talk to Calcier about it or something.
Does Calcier wear cologne?
Yes. And then they have that's what they meant by the Inquisitor has your scent. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, everyone wants into Elysium.
Yeah.
Her hair had grown longer and had been carefully cut by Renault's stylist so that it fell around her ears, curling slightly. She no longer looked quite so scrawny in the mirror, despite her lengthy sickness. Regular meals had filled her out.
I'm becoming...
She didn't know what she was becoming. Certainly not a noblewoman. Noblewomen didn't get annoyed when they couldn't to... Okay, there's
Hold
a
on.
typo here
Oh, I need
in my
to
version.
already, and I need to also change my audio. I'm still on my helicopter microphone.
No.
Where is it? Hello? Oh, that's a speaker.
Okay, there we go.
Noblewomen didn't get annoyed when they couldn't go out stalking at night. Yet she wasn't really Vin the Urchin anymore. She was...
Mistborn.
She said it. She said the title.
I wanted you to say roll credits. I was waiting for you to
Roll
say
credits.
You said there was a typo earlier.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. It's that moment will
Cut
likely
this out.
have been cut.
I'm just very, very excited because I want to know. Because I think my edition is ahead of yours. So what was the typo?
Noblewomen didn't get annoyed when they couldn't to go out stalking at night.
It's still there.
Oh,
It's still there in mine too.
how funny.
Oh. It's a 2 is such a little shit word. It's like being like in a program when you're programming and you made a typo and it ruins your whole program. You just this would be so frustrating. Oh. But my brain was like, bye, take that 2 out. It doesn't make sense. It did it, but you actually picked it up.
So, well, for those who are listening, I have had to read this line like 6 or 7 times now.
Sorry.
Okay? And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working because I'm like half reading and half speaking.
Your brain's like,
and
help.
It was not clicking until finally I realized, oh, that word shouldn't be in the sentence. Then I was able to do it.
Wow, huge page 283 typo in my edition.
Yeah. For clarity, we're not complaining here. We're excited.
We're observing. Look, it's a little nugget, I suppose.
Yeah. There's joy here in this discovery.
It's much joy. Mistborn. Roll credits.
Vin carefully laid the beautiful red dress back on her bed, then crossed the room to look out the window. The sun was close to setting. Soon the mists would come, though, as usual, Sazed would have guards posted to make certain that she didn't go on any unauthorized allomantic romps. Good, Sazed has learned.
Yeah.
She hadn't complained at the precautions. He was right. Unwatched, she probably would have broken her promise long ago.
That is so immature. I'm sorry. Come on. You can't control yourself.
I mean, she's 16.
Yeah, I guess that's what you need. Yeah.
But also, she's got a grievous wound.
I can't believe it. She's like, yeah, I'm glad that there are those guards there. She's that, that is how frustrated she is, that she would actually just be like, I'm just going out for a bit of a walk. Just a bit of a iron pull or steel push or whatever the hell it is. Just jumping around. Oh, oopsie, bleeding to death. Yes. So yes, go Sazed. I like the way Sazed's learned, but she hasn't.
Yeah. And she's changed so much from the timid, want to be alone, curled up in the corner to, I want to get out.
Yeah, I'm going to go out. I want to do stuff.
Yeah. She caught a glimpse of motion to her right and could barely make out a figure standing out on the garden balcony. Kelsier. Vin stood for a moment, then left her rooms. Kelsier turned as she walked onto the balcony. She was reluctant to interrupt him, but he gave her one of his characteristic smiles. She walked forward, joining him at the carved stone balcony railing. Okay, I wouldn't mention it again, except for the fact that we had a moment earlier. There's another typo. There's another added to here.
Wanting to...
She was reluctant to interrupt him.
Oh, mine says she
fixed?
paused, not wanting to interrupt.
Interesting.
So
See,
the
this
two
is why
belongs here.
See, this is why we call out these things, because if we're working with slightly different editions, we can catch stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Nerds, just nerding. So hard. Like, look what my sentence says. Look what your sentence says.
He turned and looked westward, not at the grounds, but beyond them, toward the wilderness, lit by a setting sun outside of town. Does it ever look wrong to you, Vin?
Wrong?
The dry plants, the angry sun, the smoky black sky.
How can those things be right or wrong? That's just the way things are.
I suppose. But I think your mindset is part of the wrongness. The world shouldn't look like this.
How do you know that?
Kelsier reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. He unfolded it with a gentle touch, then handed it to Vin. She accepted the sheet, holding it carefully. It was so old and worn that it seemed close to breaking at the creases. It didn't contain any words, just an old faded picture. It depicted a strange shape, something like a plant, though not one Vin had ever seen. It was too flimsy. It didn't have a thick stalk, and its leaves were far too delicate. At its top, it had a strange collection of leaves that were a different color from the rest. It's called a flower. They used to grow on plants before the Ascension. Descriptions of them appear in the old poems and stories, things that only keepers and rebel sages know about anymore. Apparently, these plants were beautiful and they had a pleasant smell. Okay, quickly. Kitteh, what kind of flower are you imagining?
Literally, like, just a daisy. No, wait, no, it's colorful. So it's like a purple sort of daisy, like a very simple flower, yellow center and color on the outside. Like,
interesting.
Not like a rose or anything like that. But it still looks flimsy. Actually, just thinking about how flimsy it is, I did think of the flowers that are here in Dubai because they're highly cultivated and you get this flimsiness and delicacy of it. I drew a little daisy, so I think it was just that's just my default flower.
Interesting. I did imagine a rose.
Yeah, because it would be a scent, maybe, or you imagined a rose. Why?
I think because of the association that we learn this picture has with Mare and what it represents to him in that way. So,
I mean, it has there's no thorns, but at the top of a rose, you don't really see the thorns anyway.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. No, I'm literally just. It would have been worse if there were thorns. Actually, if she had seen them. So this picture, not every rose has thorns where visible. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to argue with you.
Sure. It doesn't. The description doesn't say that there aren't or are thorns.
Exactly. No.
Interesting.
Oh, were you reminded of the stars thing?
A little bit, yeah.
That's what I was reminded of just like of the way that we like what are they looking at, and this they don't know what stars are. It's like, oh yeah, she doesn't know what flowers are. Like that's the sadness of it all. It's just, this is what it would look like, what a flower would look like to somebody who doesn't know what it is. It's a plant and it has different colored leaves. There's no word petals. Like it has different colored leaves at the top. It's a very sad way of, and also again we have this before the ascension. It's like ascension is about going above and getting, I suppose, better. This doesn't seem like it's gone up at all.
No. Folks in the chat and in the comments section, what kind of flower do you think it is?
Who's that flower?
Oh, man.
Plants that smell like fruit.
Something like that, I think. Some of the reports claim that these flowers grew into fruit in the days before the Ascension. Oh yeah, pro Dorkus factoid. I'm fond of tulips. You like daisies? I like tulips.
Mm.
Yeah. Vin stood quietly, frowning, trying to imagine such a thing. That picture belonged to my wife, Mare. Dachshund found it in her things after we were taken. He kept it, hoping that we would return. He gave it to me after I escaped. Vin looked down at the picture again. Mare was fascinated by pre-ascension times, Kelsier said, still staring out over the gardens. In the distance, the sun touched the horizon and grew an even deeper red. She collected things like that paper, pictures and descriptions of the old times. I loved that Brandon Sanderson, wrote about the red sun right after the line about pre-ascension times. That's really excellent order of images. She collected things like that paper, pictures, and descriptions of the old times. I think that fascination, along with the fact that she was a Tin-Eye, is part of what led her to the underground and to me. She's the one who first introduced me to Sazed, though I didn't use him in my crew at the time. He wasn't interested in thieving. Okay, there's an interesting line in there. Is part of what led her to the underground and to me. Was Mare a half-breed or was she a full-blooded noble?
Yes, that was a question that came from there. I don't know, but it brought that up.
Right, because that almost makes it sound as if she were a noble lady who was, interested in being rebellious, rather than...
That was my instinct, yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than a half-breed.
Your average half-breed lady.
Scar Misting. Yeah.
She's the one who introduced me to Sazed, though I didn't use him in my crew at the time. He wasn't interested in thieving. Vin folded up the paper.
And you keep this picture still? After what she did to you?
And then I was very excited for this conversation because we had commented so much on the framing with which she thought in the previous chapter, or however long ago, someone you thought you loved.
Exactly.
So I'm really, by design, by Brandon Sanderson's excellent design, I'm sure.
That's one of the things that are the payoff for whatever matching up examples that I was talking about in the beginning. This is one of them. I think it's the biggest one, actually.
Yes. Kelsier fell silent for a moment, then he eyed her. Been listening at doors again, have we? Oh, don't worry, I suppose it's common enough knowledge. In the distance, the setting sun became ablaze, its ruddy light illuminating clouds and smoke alike. Yes, I keep the flower. I'm not really sure why, but do you stop loving someone just because they betray you? I don't think so. That's what makes the betrayal hurt so much. Pain, frustration, anger. And I still loved her. I still do.
How? How can you? And how can you possibly trust people? Didn't you learn from what she did to you?
I think given the choice between loving Mare, betrayal included, and never knowing her, I'd choose love. I risked, and I lost. But the risk was still worth it. It's the same with my friends. Suspicion is healthy in our profession, but only to an extent. I'd rather trust my men than worry about what will happen if they turn on me.
That sounds foolish.
Is happiness foolish? Kelsier asked, turning toward her. Where have you been happier, Vin? On my crew or back with Kamen?
She paused. Does it have her saying something in your version?
She thinks he knows the answer to that. Vin didn't reply.
Wow, mine just says Vin paused.
Ooh, that's a big.
That's a big
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know. I mean that I had the same thing that we know the answer to that, but she doesn't. it's like she's not communicating. It's not made clear in this version. It's not made clear that she's communicating to him that she's been happier. But yeah, it's not it's the
Interesting.
biggest change we've come across.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because like
she
you're
thinks-
waiting for me to read. I'm like, okay, hello.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so she thinks he knows the answer to that. Vin didn't reply. I don't know for sure if Mare betrayed me. She always claimed that she didn't.
And she was sent to the pits, right? That doesn't make sense if she had sided with the Lord Ruler.
Kelsier shook his head, still staring into the distance. She showed up at the pits a few weeks after I was sent there. We were separated after we were caught. I don't know what happened during that time or why she was eventually sent to Halfson. The fact that she was sent to die hints that maybe she really didn't betray me, but you didn't hear him when he caught us, Finn. The Lord Ruler, he thanked her for betraying me. His words, spoken with such an eerie sense of honesty, mixed with the way that the plan was set up. Well, it was hard to believe, Mare. That didn't change my love, though, not deep down. I nearly died when she did, a year later, beaten before the slave masters at the pits. That night, after her corpse was taken away, I snapped.
Sorry, I'm just hearing a plane.
Yeah, which is fine because,
Okay.
wow. Oh, Kelsier.
Yeah.
So,
Ow.
some part of me is wondering if the Lord Ruler can see into the future, like far into the future. What if he knows he's the villain? What if he knows that Vin is the girl who's the key to everything? And what if, like, he's acting in accordance with that? Like, he is setting things up so that she can save the world, right? And doing that means he has to get Kelsier and Vin together. And this is how he does that.
I don't think he would have that much knowledge. I think that there is this thing that he might be worried about a girl that is the key to everything, but I don't know how much of that he knows. And I don't know how purposeful this whole thing with Kelsier is, as in how calculated.
Like, do you think like he just... Kelsier says he spoke with such honesty. Do you think that he was lying? Not Kelsier, the Lord Ruler was lying when he thanked her?
Yeah, I think he was lying in that maybe she didn't betray him, but he knew that the plan was laid out in such a way that it would look like she betrayed him. Now, I don't know.
Right. So I'm wondering if it's what I said was true from a certain point of view type of a thing, where like maybe she didn't actively or knowingly betray him, but like maybe her mind was read, or maybe she was roofied, or
No, or she was trying to save him and she was misled.
Yeah.
Like that was one of our earlier theories, or I don't know if you'll claim it too, if you want it as well. But it was the thing of, no, I think we both agreed that it could be something where like she's caught and then threatened and she trusts the Lord Ruler because she just has no other option. She's trying to save him, and that's how it turns out. I think that would make sense.
Right. And then that is still a viable option based off of this information that we have now.
Yeah, it is. And this he still doesn't really know. He doesn't know. So it will be interesting for us to get like a flashback POV of Mare,
Right. And then this Yeah. And then this next part is
Revelation
a callback.
Central. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a callback to something I said I think the first time we heard the word snapped.
Yes, it's the called it.
Yep. So let's
get
through the next few lines.
But wait, before that.
Okay.
Just the thing of literally we had said it before, the thing that that he spoke about with you don't stop loving someone if they betray you. That's exactly the discussion we had last time or whenever it was. That that's what makes betrayal hurtful, because you can't just turn off this love you had for this person. That's not how that works. So we had the exact words basically.
What is grief but love persisting?
Oh, where's that from?
You don't want to know.
Okay.
WandaVision.
But then also another thing as well. The fact is, where was it? Sorry. He still loves her. One of the best things I like of him saying is happiness foolish? It's like, that's it. What would you rather be? Would you rather be scared all the time? Or would you, it's literally that would rather have loved and lost than not loved at all.
I want to be right.
You want to be right. Oh, we get that from there. Okay. There we go. Anyway, let us get back into it. Sorry, I just wanted to get through that before we went into the new stuff, because there's lots to talk about now.
There's so much. I snapped.
You went mad?
No. Snapping is an allomantic term. Our powers are latent at first. They only come out after some traumatic event. Okay. Hold it. So, which means I want to revisit the conversation I think we had ages ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Every single genuinely noble Mistborn and Misting has been tortured.
Yep. Well, tortured. I mean, we don't know about tortured, but has had
a traumatic, near life-threatening event.
And also, are they looking for these kinds of events? Like it seems to me it would be common for something like that to happen in the nobility, because we're trying to unlock our Mistborn, because we'll be powerful then. So let's torture them. That's totally happening. That is totally happening.
Yeah. I would bet so much metaphorical dollars.
Maybe
House Venture tortures all of its kids because it wants all of them.
Yes, that's why Elend is against his own house, kind of rebellious. Haha! I think so. I really think that we're going to see into that, because it's not. We can't say all of the houses do it, but probably the majority do, and the most powerful ones definitely.
Then that makes the next question being: wouldn't there be like an oversaturation of half-born mistings because their life is regularly torture?
Exactly. Interesting. That's why the mistings are. But the only thing that would keep them down is literally the Inquisitors hunting them down.
Yes, which means they must be exceptionally good at what they do.
Yeah, and that also makes for why a Mistborn, as in somebody who has all of the powers available to them, is even more rare. So it makes sense. They're being culled.
And hello, I've read a lot of George R.R. Martin.
Really?
Like, what happens if you are, say, Elend Venture, and you just don't have the magic gene, but you have a desperate patriarch who like has to have a misting child, so he just keeps trying and he keeps trying, and but it just all in vain. This is a really deep. The ramifications of this are immense, and it's really fun to just live in this moment, imagining and thinking on those things. Yeah.
We're going to be talking about you bringing this up in the future. We're going to be going, called it. I seriously think so.
Snapping is an allomantic term. Our powers are latent at first. They only come out after some traumatic event. Something intense, something almost deadly. The philosophers say that a man can't command the metals until he has seen death and rejected it.
So when did that happen to me?
It's hard to tell. Growing up as you did, there were probably ample opportunities for you to snap.
Wait, one thing to say. Could have been literally when her mom tried to kill her.
Yep.
So she was a baby then, apparently. So maybe that's why her mom was trying to kill her. Who knows? I need to know. I need to know whether she's gonna be like gonna have powers. Is she gonna be a problem? That's why I'm gonna try and kill her. Not that, that's still messed up. But then it's like maybe that's the reasoning behind it.
He nodded as if to himself. For me, it was that night, alone in the pits, my arms bleeding from the day's work. Mare was dead, and I feared that I was responsible, that my lack of faith took away her strength and will. She died knowing that I questioned her loyalty. Maybe if I had really loved her, I wouldn't have ever questioned. I don't know.
But she didn't die.
Kelsier shook his head. I decided that I'd see her dream fulfilled. I'd make a world where flowers returned, a world with green plants, a world where no soot fell from the sky. He trailed off, then sighed. I know. I'm insane.
Actually, it kind of makes sense. Finally.
Kelsier smiled. The sun sank beneath the horizon, and while its light was still aflare in the west, the mists began to appear. They didn't come from one specific place, they just sort of grew. They extended like translucent, twisting vines in the sky, curling back and forth, lengthening, dancing, melding. Mare wanted children. Back when we were first married a decade and a half ago, I didn't agree with her. I wanted to become the most famous ska thief of all time. I didn't have time for things that would slow me down. It's probably a good thing that we didn't have children. The Lord Ruler might have found and killed them. But he might not have. Dox and the others survived. Now sometimes I wish that I had a piece of her with me. A child. Daughter, perhaps, with Mare's same dark hair and resilient stubbornness. He looked down at Vin. I don't want to be responsible for something happening to you, Vin. Not again.
I'm not spending any more time locked in this mansion.
No, I don't suppose you will. If we try to keep you in much longer, you'll probably show up at Clubs' shop one night having done something very foolish. We're a bit too much alike that way, you and I. Just be careful.
I will.
They stood for a few more minutes, watching the mists gather. Finally, Kelsier stood up straight, stretching. Well, for what it's worth, I'm glad you decided to join us, Finn.
To tell you the truth, I'd kind of like to see one of those flowers for myself.
The bonding.
I know. The thing of mentioning a daughter that looks like Mare, and oh god, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And then looks down at her, and I'm sure she understands what he means by that.
Yeah.
He's not saying, "Hey, Vin, I think of you as a daughter." Like he's not doing it that way, but it's mentioning that means, Vin, I think of you as a daughter. If I lost you, it would be absolutely crazy. So maybe, yeah, devastating. So maybe now, considering what she saw in the beginning, remember when I said like she didn't put it together that is her near death is part of what changed Kelsier.
Yes.
Yeah, at the end, he's asserting, he's showing her or making it known that that she is that important. So now I think Vin would be more cognizant of, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I had something to do with that. She wouldn't want to admit that because that's admitting she has value to someone, and that's just freaking weird to her. Yeah, very beautiful moment. And just the fact, she keeps it light. She's just like, yeah, I want to see a flower too. And she shows her stubbornness that he's referring to. He's like a stubborn like Mare, and then she's like, yeah, I'm not staying here.
Yes.
Wholesome stuff. Which makes me worry for the next chapter. I'm like, please.
Oh,
this was very nice. I'm scared now.
In a previous episode,
Dorkus,
I
can't hear you. What did I do? Hello?
You can't hear me?
I shrugged.
Is that why?
I messed up. Did I was talk right past you?
Yeah, you've been talking past me quite a bit.
Oh,
Is it
I'm
because you
so
couldn't hear
sorry.
me?
No, I couldn't hear you because I could see this little do thing. But it's because I moved my head and my headset turned your volume down. Okay, shit. Where let's go back. Sorry.
No. Honestly, I thought you were just so excited to be saying what you were saying that like every
And
time
then
I
you were
tried
just
to
being an
interject, I just stopped.
absolutely rude bitch. I'm so sorry. No, I only saw it afterwards. And you were talking proper. I'm like,
No, not really. Not until the very end.
I'm so sorry. Okay, what were you saying? I was not ignoring you, I promise. My headset was.
Several episodes ago, we had talked about how Vin had come to the realization that there were people depending on her.
Yeah.
And I had been talking about how that must be a new and unique feeling for her. And for the life of me, when we were recording that day, I couldn't think of the word that I wanted to say. And I didn't say it. And I finally remembered it. The word is responsibility. So Vin has come to feel a certain sense of responsibility. And I think Kelsier, especially now that he has essentially defined, at least to himself, that he sees Vin as a daughter, he starts to feel a different sense of responsibility.
Beautiful connection. Yes. That is fatherhood as well. That you're not just responsible for yourself and even just your partner. You're responsible in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And if you fail at meeting that responsibility, that's devastating for both you and the person you're responsible for. Whew. Yeah. The reason that I landed up actually muting you was because I was like hugging myself and shrugging because it was all wholesome and stuff. So that's actually what, yeah, that my point is lots of feelings, lots of warmth.
Yeah,
and scary.
that it was a really well done chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
And sorry, did you have any comments about me being scared about the next chapter? You know, seeing as I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I was saying yes. I was agreeing and being like,
agreeing.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Nobody. I didn't need to hear you. I just knew that you were agreeing. Okay.
I do have that tendency.
Agreeableness. Anyway, whoa. You know what? Hey, like and subscribe to the No One Asked You podcast.
If you haven't subscribed to ThatDarnKitteh, highly recommend you do so. She's got a wonderful channel where she does panel shows on Thursdays. And she plays games like Pal World and Meowster Hunter, and occasionally does diagrams on Tuesdays, but sometimes Wednesdays.
Just put your notifications on for both of these channels.
If you like.
Hopefully you'll be known. You'll be notified.
Look,
We'll see
we
you
know that you have a limited number of subscriptions and likes that you are allowed to dole out on a weekly basis. And we truly, truly appreciate that you consider us.
Appreciated. Sorry, I had to.
How you curate your channels is, of course, up to you. But when you choose us as your liked and subscribed channels, you are adding to your curated experience a truly refined, professional.
I can't. Well, thank you. I was going to go into the... Anyway, this has been a loopy episode.
It really has been. Thanks for sticking with us if you made it this far.
Laughs all around. Have a nice laugh.
See ya. Bye.